Hello everyone. Just make sure this is going live. It looks like it, which is where we're doing well. My name's Anna. I'm from Anna Thomson Comedy, and today I'm coming to you from the Wellington community program, the Arts and Craft program, and I've loved being a special guest on the program last week and then this week. And last week we did some talking heads. We made some creatures from household objects and from the environment, the natural environment around us. We gave them faces, we brought them to life, and that recording is up on the Wellington's page. Chris has been doing some fantastic cooking programs, some origami. It's been such a full school holidays, and then this one is the last one I'll be bringing you this time. So what we're going to do is we're looking at shadows today. So shadows can be found everywhere and anywhere. Today, because it's sunny outside, there's a lot of shadows, but also we can find them in our houses. So I've got the blinds down today because we're going to need a little bit of darkness, and you can see behind me now, even just the light from the window that is open is creating lots of shadows. So we're going to create our own shadow box and then find some different ways of creating puppets or also making shadows through found objects, things around the house, the natural environment, maybe even our hands. Some of the items you might need today for materials. Again, if you don't have these things, it doesn't matter because there'll be a recording of this up on the Wellington's page, also on Anna Thomson Comedy's page, and you can listen to it later and join in and find your items. We've tried to keep them low, things that you find around the house, so you don't have to go out and buy a whole heap of stuff. So, first things first. To make a shadow puppetry box, we're going to need a box. So I've got one here. It's just a shoebox. Easy. Any old brand. I don't endorse any brands. And you need a box. You will also need some scissors and a pen or a texter or a pencil. I'm going to need some tape, trusty masking tape. You can use sticky tape. I prefer masking tape because you can actually put that in the recycling bin. We'll also need some skewers. And if you don't have skewers, these are just barbecue skewers. You can also use anything that's long and thin, a bit like last week where we had the talking heads. Anything that can become that's long and thin that you can stick things onto, that's what we're going to be using for the puppets. So I've got a spoon here. There's also, again, just another, you can use a pencil or a pen, or even, like last week, a chopstick. These are the things you can use. Got scissors. What else do we need? We need a light source. So we'll come to that a little bit later, but if you do have a torch, that one's looking a little shabby, or also a lamp is fine too. We've got a lamp here, I'll show it to you. Up here, so just an average bedside lamp, anything that will make some light. Of course, we've got quite a bit of light in this room, and so I'm going to use something stronger, and I'll turn that on a little bit later. That's a more high-powered light. These are small and great when it's really dark, but because it's daytime, we're not going to get the same effect. But these are the things you can use. So let's start. So if you've got your box, any old box, you can also use a carton that maybe a whole heap of milk's come in, anything that is in a bit of a square shape, box size. So we've got our box. Now I have pre-cut this, but that was just simple. You might need some help from an adult to do this because I didn't use a Stanley knife for this, but to cut that out, I ended up using scissors, but it is a little bit tricky to get into those corners without cutting through the whole box. So if there's an adult or a guardian around you, maybe an older sibling, then they can help you with that. If you've got a Stanley knife or with some scissors, or even, yeah, something sharp. So I've cut out a square, just move that to there, square, well, a rectangle, can be any shape too, along these corners. Oh, it's fallen in. So we'll take that out. This is going to be the screen for our shadow puppetry. Now, the good thing is about shadow puppetry is you can use a variety of things to make your screen out of. If you have some white material or a bit of old sheet, you can use that. It's got to be fairly thin, so something thicker like a tea towel or a white jumper is not going to work. But something light, so you can put some white material there. But what I discovered is you can also use baking paper. So we can use this, and this one happens to be a little bit brown in colour because it is the eco recycled baking paper. Again, not endorsing any brands. Go out, find your materials, or you might have something at home. And what I've done is, yeah, the white, which is bleached, so not quite as good for the environment. That one will give different types of shadows, but this brown one absolutely does the trick. So we're going to use that. So I've cut out a sheet of that here. And what we're going to do is we're going to sticky tape or masking tape that to the outside of the box. Now we also have to cut it into shape. So I'm going to do that now. So you can, and to do that, last week we looked at how you can trace. We traced a circle with a cup. So with this, you might want to put your baking paper along the edges, and then with a pencil, you can also just draw a square for the edges of that box. It doesn't need to be perfect. None of this needs to be perfect. If there's something that I know about doing arts and craft is nothing is wrong, ever. If it doesn't quite work, then there are opportunities to find other fun ways to create things. So don't worry if it doesn't look like what I'm creating, if it looks totally different, if the edges are rough, if it's a little bit on the side, that's all completely fine. It's just about having a bit of fun. So I'm going to cut this to shape, cut along the edges a little bit here. Very nice. Let's see if that's about the right size. Just a little bit more off, a tiny strip. And the wonderful thing about this box is it's just come from our recycling bin. So we'll also be using other items from our recycling bin today. If you have any cardboard, if you have the packaging around something, then you can use that to make your puppets as well. So having a bit of a rummage through your recycling bin before it goes to the recycling is a great way to find a whole lot of materials. So now I'm going to tape this on the outside with my masking tape. Again, I love masking tape because you can put this in the recycling. Sticky tape you can't. So let's tape that. And you want to tape that fairly firmly because you don't want the screen to fall down. I was having a go at this yesterday and I had a little bit of tape here and a little bit of tape there, and then lo and behold, my screen did fall off in the middle of having a bit of a play. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to keep this nice and secure so that when we do a shadow play, and you might want to create a shadow play for your siblings, for your parents maybe, or guardians. Maybe you've got grandparents, aunties, uncles. Bit of tape up here. And if you're a bit worried about, oh, you can see the masking tape, oh no, that looks a little bit shabby, then you can decorate it. With some coloured pencils, you can draw things along the side. Maybe you want to write your name, sign your signature as a creative artist. Just sticking this all along the sides. And this is the base. You can get creative. Maybe you have some materials and you want to make little curtains, and you could put some curtains around the edge here with some material too. Plenty of options. So we have now, I'll just show you up here, our box which has been taped. It's got the edges here. We're going to just cut that quickly, the lid, because that's going to give us a little bit more room when we make when we set up the shadow screen. So cut that along here. Excellent. And I'm also going to give myself a little bit more room inside the box. So we're just going to cut into the box and then about halfway along. And I'll show you why later. That's going to make it easier to perform with your shadow puppets. And if you are watching along at the moment, feel free to comment. You can post if you create some shadow puppets and you would like to show us what you've created. Post them up, send them to the Wellington or to Anna Thomson Comedy or to both. And then we would love to see what you've created. Now, I'm also going to do this to the top, so I'm going to cut about halfway in and all the way along. Again, you might need a hand with this because it can be a little bit tricky. Aha! Now, these bits of extra cardboard also come in handy for creating puppets, so don't throw anything away. We have our wonderful screen. Now, to start with the puppets, there are heaps of different ways to create puppets. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to take you through a little exercise which I absolutely love. Now, a good friend of mine who's a wonderful shadow puppetry artist and visual artist named Annie Edney, she first showed me this technique. So we just need some, now this is a bit of cardboard that's come from the recycling bin. It's just some extra packaging. I'm going to use that. Now, it's a thin cardboard. The thicker you get with cardboard, it does make it a little bit hard if you've got some finer detail with your puppetry. So we're going to use some thin cardboard. Paper is okay. It can be a little bit thin, but also it can work. So I've got a nice sheet of cardboard here. So Annie Edney told me about this. So this is a really different way of creating some shadow puppets. If you want, you can make something that looks like an animal, or it looks like, say, a fish, or you could do a flower or a motorcycle, whatever you like. But if you would like to try something else, if you think, okay, we're going to go for something that's not so realistic, this is an exercise. I'll show you an example in a minute. What we're going to do is just with a pencil, do a bit of a scribble. So I'm going to start out here. I'm not going to make it too big because we want it to fit within our screen. So I'm going to do just a little. There's my scribble. You can also do it with your eyes closed if you wanted to. Over this side, I'm going to do it with my eyes closed. Okay. Now this might look like absolutely nothing. What is this? This isn't a shadow puppet. But what I'm encouraging you to do today is from this scribble is to create your own creature. Now the creature might be within this. Let's have a look. What could this be? Ah, or maybe, maybe I see, maybe I see some eyes here. Maybe this can be an eye. So I had no idea what this was going to be. Maybe there's another eye here. Now we've got some curly bits and some whirly bits. What could they be? If we extend this, and this part could it be? So I'm just going to have a little play and start to fill in some of the gaps. Just to see what this shadow puppet is actually going to become. Starting to look a little bit like a creature. What kind of creature could that be? It could be an elephant. It could be something else with a long trunk. It could be something that doesn't even exist. So that's just come out of a scribble. Now I have a unique puppet. It doesn't look like anything I've seen before. And that's just come from a scribble. It also means you don't have to be, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm not the best drawer, that doesn't even mean a thing. You can do whatever you want with this activity, and that means it's from your imagination. So the wilder and the wackier it is, the more interesting it can become, and then it's uniquely yours, which means that nobody else has drawn anything like it before. It doesn't look like it comes from a book. So we've got this puppet here. We could give it a little neck. And now what about this here? Oh, interesting. So we've got some sort of point here, and then I've got a curly whirly at the top. So I'm going to extend that a little bit. Give it a little bit of a neck. And suddenly, out of that scribble, we now have another creature. It could be a bird. Could be something. It could be a person with a wonderful hairdo, something spiky. So these puppets we are now going to cut out, and this is a part which can be a little tricky, especially if you have, as I have, made lots of twirls and whirls. So I'm going to cut these out now. And we are going to take these creatures and make them into shadow puppets. So cut along all of these lines. Again, if it's tricky for you to cut around some of these, some of the edges you've made, if you need to get help, there's nothing wrong with that. Give it a go first, because it's amazing what you can do when you give it a go. Sometimes you think, oh, that's too hard, or I'm not doing it perfectly. That perfect word, you can throw that away, because it's all about having a bit of fun and also making something, like I said before, that is unique for you. And then the great thing is about when something comes from your imagination or it comes from a scribble, that you can tell a story, you can be inspired to tell a story that perhaps you'd never thought of before. It isn't just your average story. So I'm going along here, and we'll be with you until 10:30 today. And after that, this recording will be available on the Collingwood, the Wellington's Facebook page, and also on Anna Thomson Comedy's page. Already these two look like they're having a conversation, don't they? So we've nearly got this. The other thing about shadow puppetry is, we will see this shortly, is whatever is white on this piece of cardboard, what do you think is going to happen when we put it behind the screen and then put some light behind it? It's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be white anymore. So anything where it's solid or where it's white here, whatever you're using, cardboard, is going to become dark when we put it on the screen. We'll see that in just a moment. And so if you have eyes, you might have a fantastically detailed design on here, but we won't see these eyes because they're not actually letting the light through. So I'm going to, and this is where it is, you might need some help, is I'm going to create two little holes in here. I'm doing that by bending the paper just a little bit and then making a hole And we might go slightly over time today, only because I get excited and have all these things I want to show you. So we've got one little eye there. We're going to do another one here for this creature. And then it seems it has some tusks or some teeth. Maybe we'll make it smaller. You can also always change it and think, oh no, I don't want it to look like that. I might actually just chop that bit off. Aha! So we have one creature. Now I'm going to quickly cut out the other, and then we're going to have a look at what it looks like as a shadow. This creature, I just want it to squawk. Ah! What are you doing? There we are. We've got some zigzags to cut here. And this all just came out of a scribble. So I didn't know what I was going to create. It doesn't matter if you think you can draw or you can't draw. Everyone can. Well, most people can put a pen or a pencil to paper and do a bit of a scribble. Just like that, a zigzag. The other thing too is you can use different materials to do this with too. If you use coloured paper or cardboard, you won't actually see the colour. So it doesn't matter. That's the beauty about this, is you can use an old box. This might have writing. We could have used this side and that wouldn't have mattered either, because you're not going to see any of that when you put the light behind the puppet. Now, almost there. And I'm going to give it a little eye as well. And if the eye doesn't come out right, we can always adjust it a little bit later. We have our puppets now. We want a masking tape. We'll get rid of this. Clean that up later. The kitchen floor a sweep. Oh. And we are going to now tape that. I'm going to use one of these skewers, and I'm actually going to make it a little bit shorter. And just break them there. Be careful because the edges might be a bit sharp, in which case we'll just put a small amount of masking tape over the edge so it's not going to catch on our skin. Finally, our creature. Now, put that stick at the back, and it can be longer too. We're going to use this because our box is relatively small, but you can make it longer. And you want to wrap your masking tape around. It doesn't matter if it shows on the front, because like I said, none of that is going to matter when we put the light behind it. It's just the silhouette. Okay. Got one creature there, and then our other squawking creature here. On. And if you do have a go at this, we'd love to see what you've created, especially if you've created a strange, weird creature. We would love to see that. There we are. So we had, this is something I made a little bit earlier, was a fish. That was just, yeah, a basic shape. But these ones have come from my imagination. I also had this strange creature here, which came from a squiggle. Now let's put let's get the light source ready, move things over. And if you don't have those skewers too, you can tape things to a pencil or a spoon, anything you like. Now the light source I have back here is something like this. Now this is quite a large light. We're going to use that because we're indoors, but you can use a torch or a lamp. I'm going to turn that on. Sorry about the brightness. We'll move that around here so it's not so bright. Now, we've got our shadow screen, and what I'm going to do is just move the camera now. So if I lose you, then I will readjust it. And upside down. I'm going to now give you a view of the shadow box from here. So just adjust this camera a moment so that you can see the whole of the box and our shadow play. There we go, that's not too bad. Aha, perfect. Now behind this screen, look at this, we suddenly have, that's just our baking paper on top of the box, or at the front of the box, and now with the light source behind, we can create these wonderful shadows. So let's get our puppets happening. We've got this creature here. It's just come from our imagination. If you don't want to see your finger, I've got the box on the edge of the table. So now if I move my hand down, you won't see my hand. If you want to see your hand, that's okay. That can be part of the show. Now the interesting thing with shadows is that you'll notice, have a look at the differences when I put this close to the screen. So I'm coming forward to the screen. You can see my hand a bit. Look at the outline. The shadow gets a little bit smaller and it gets more clear around the edges. If I bring it further away and closer to the light source, it gets a bit more furry around those edges, and then also it gets larger. We'll start somewhere in the middle. Now we need our other creature. Let's have a look here. I'll give it center stage. Wow. So here, we don't know what this could be, but it's got a wonderful trunk and some teeth and some eyes. So we have these two creatures. Maybe they're having a conversation. Oh, hello. What are you doing here? I'm just, sorry, we fell into each other. I've got a bit of a cold. I'm having to blow my nose. Oh, don't come near me. Oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. Just a cold. So these two, and of course an elephant, if it had a cold, wow, can you imagine all the drippiness from that nose? So these are our fabulous creatures that have just come from our silly creations, our wonderful little scribbles. The other thing is if you want to build up something around the screen, is you can take things from your environment. So if you would like, I've got here, what does this look like here? Just a little peg, just a washing peg. So that can suddenly become a creature in your shadow world. We have, perhaps these two could meet. And the other thing is the natural environment. So you can use household objects. We've got some, what else? Got the little tea strainer here. Tea strainer can be part of it. Swimming along. Perhaps it wants to, you've got something dangling and you want it to eat. We'll just scrunch up some of this paper and along comes our tea strainer. it goes. So these are just household objects. And you may not have these, you might have different household objects. That's okay too. What kind of shadows can this make? So we could have a background. And let's see, this is quite clear if we go this close to the screen. And if we go further away, could it be, once I have it straight, what could that be? On the bed of the sea. Could be some seaweed at the bottom. So these are all the fantastic things and shadows that items around the house can have. Now, another thing you can use, and we'll go over just 5 minutes because I get too excited, is things from your natural environment. So this has just come from our garden. If you don't have a garden, or if you don't have any pot plants in your house, that's okay too. You can draw these if you like, if you want to include something. But if you do have maybe some, or even the edges, if you've got some greens or some parsley in your fridge, or the tops of carrots, then you can just cut those off and they can be part of it too. So I've got a little bit here. So I can make this into, this can become a part. I'm just going to rest that. I'll go this side because I'm blocking it. Just going to rest this here at the back. Suddenly we've got a wonderful frame from the natural world to use these. We can also, at the bottom of, see where the cardboard is here, if you use a little bit of masking tape on the back of these items, so some masking tape, just like that, you can then stick that to the bottom of your shadow screen, and it can stand up just like this. So suddenly we have a whole scene from our natural world, and we didn't even have to create a thing. So there was no cardboard involved, we didn't have to use any scissors to cut things out, and we get the most amazing detail. That's just from the natural environment, so everything can make a shadow. I get very excited about shadows. And stick this one in too. Aha! So look at this. Suddenly, a whole scene. And then what could happen? Could there be, it could be something where, oh, this little character, oh, hang on, that wasn't stuck in properly. Oh. This character could be walking along. So this one will need some masking tape too. Again, if it falls down, if the whole thing falls apart, don't even worry. You can either start again or you can stick it back up. There's no mistakes creating this. Here we go. So we have this creature which I made yesterday. Whoop. Looks like it's got a bit of a crown, and I don't know what this is, but it could be about to eat some, maybe this is grapes. This creature is going for a little walk. Oh, did-do, did-do, did-do. And turn it around. Oh, how nice to be out for a walk. You can have the creatures interact with each other. Let's see what they can do. Oh, you can fly down in the way of the screen. Oh, it's a bit tricky to go all of these things at once. Hello, hello. Oh, hello, hello. You can see my hands in the shadow there. We could do it from this side, couldn't we? So you can play around with these creatures, give them names, let them talk to each other. There we go. Ow! And use the natural world as well to create shadow and light. If you get closer, see how sharp that is? And we could actually, to get a little bit closer, bring our shadow screen just further forward. Aha, there we are, that's sharper. The other thing, just before I go, is you can also puppeteer from the bottom, but also from the top. So I've got mine above my shadow screen here. So this saves getting hands in the way. And maybe, suddenly our natural world becomes an underwater scene. And that's, probably see my hand at the top, that's me puppeteering from the top. Other note, before we finish up, is with your puppets, there can be a tendency to want to jiggle them around. So let's just have a little look at that. Is we jiggle our puppets and we go, oh, hello, hello, which is kind of funny, actually. But if we want to see the design of the puppet, let's have a look. If we hold this still, you might want to turn its head. But if it's just moving around like this, we might think it looks interesting, but people watching might go, what is happening? So you could do that for a small amount of time. Maybe this creature ate something that it didn't like. And then bring it still again, nice and still, so that we can see the effect. So that we come to the end of the shadow box making, puppets shadow making workshop today. I've been Anna Thomson Comedy, and I want to give a huge shout out to the Wellington, who has put on the most fantastic arts and crafts and cooking program for the school holidays. Chris has done a brilliant job. You would have followed along with his things. I've been delighted to be involved for 2 of those, and this is the last one for today. Hopefully see you soon, and hopefully in person down the track in the summer school holidays for some in-person workshops, including those with some shadow puppetry. Thanks very much, and good luck creating. Share all your creations with us. We would love that. Bye.